Hello everybody, this is Mark with Pelican Wooden Things. Hope you're having a great day. This piece of wood was given to me years ago by a friend of mine when his avocado tree was dying. He had it cut down. So this is a piece of avocado. And when I was originally going to turn this, I thought I would do twice turn and see how it went. Idea is you turn it, then you let it dry out, then complete the turning. Unfortunately, it did crack quite a bit. You saw all that super glue on there. I had to fill in all those cracks. Hopefully it'll give it a nice accent and hold the piece together, and I can make this bowl and give it back to my friend as a bowl instead of just a piece of wood. Here's a push cut. Trying to get a nice smooth surface by riding the back of the bevel, pushing it into the cut so it gives a nice smooth shaving type of cut. Generally this gives a smoother surface than the pull cut you see demonstrated here. There's a nice little piece of the back end of the bark stuck onto the wood, and it looks like a really nice color. I hope it stays. Some of these cracks still have a little bit of a void in them. I'll have to fill those up at a later time, but for right now it's going to hold together just fine while I make the shape. As you see, it still has a few flaws in there. The little bit of cracks, some tear out. I think it needs a little bit more work. Then we'll be able to fill in those holes and get us a nice shape on it. I think in the end it's going to look really good. Just get that super light push cut for an extra smooth surface. Will definitely take care of that tear out. You see me pull the tail end of the tool around, so I follow the curve of the bowl as I'm making the cut. Provides a consistent angle for the cutting on the wood. I was kind of looking at the shape and I thought, oh, I think I'll smooth out that edge there and make the indentation in the bottom just a little bit more pronounced, and it'll give it a more pleasing shape overall. Now we can go ahead and fill those voids. Just apply a little super glue, hit it with the accelerator, work my way around the bowl. After this, we'll sand out whatever we can of the super glue so it doesn't show up in the final product. Some wood is really absorbent and you probably want to be a little more careful with super glue, but this avocado is fairly hard. It doesn't really soak up much. There's a little sanding sealer. And of course, sanding after the sanding sealer. I'm going to do a nice natural finish called Tried and True. Plenty stuck on the lid right there since it requires a very thin coat. I don't even get into the can during this process. I just pulled off what I needed off the lid. Turn it around, giving a very, very light coat, as light as you can. Then you let it sit for about an hour and come back and rub it all off. Ooh, that looks nice. That's going to be pretty. I can buff it off a little bit with a paper towel, then I turn to some 4/0 steel wool And it's time to hollow out the tool. Hollow out the bowl, excuse me. And just like I do on the outside, I ride the bevel of the bowl gouge and turn it as I proceed to follow the curve that I want to make to keep that cutting angle as stable as possible. You can see, chips are flying. Works pretty well. This bowl is a little too deep for me to effectively do it. I'm going to have to switch over to carbide tools to complete the process. Unfortunately, that does tend to get a little more tear out. But we'll get there in the end. We'll do a few light cuts at the very end and sand the heck out of it. It'll look okay. I decided to try this tool as it's the carbide tool that turns at an angle or straight, however you decide to use it, and I thought that might help reduce the tear out. Since it's cutting at a less aggressive angle, it tends to sort of slice. I won't say a carbide tool ever really slices very well, but this is better than nothing. So in the end, I had to go back to the other tool, but I made the majority of it with this angled tool. Got rid of the really deep tear outs. When I switched over to the original tool, the original carbide tool, I just took some very, very light cuts, and I was able to avoid majority of the tear out. Got it down to where I could definitely get it out with just sandpaper. There we go, back to the original tool. And as you see, I'm barely pushing it into the work. Just trying to make sure I have a smooth surface on the inside, blend all the curves into each other, and not create more tear out. That feels pretty good. It's time for sanding. Back to the lid of the tried and true. And we'll treat it the same way as we did the other. Let it sit for a while, then I buffed it all out. Now, since I started turning this bowl so many years ago, I did not really think about holding onto the bowl while I took the tenon off. Didn't know what my final shape would be anyway, and since this has a curve on the mouth of the bowl, curving inward, I can't really hold it with my cold jaws, so I made a jam chuck. It's a piece of 3/4 plywood with a hole drilled in the middle of it, and I turn it into a wedge shape that fits into the opening of the bowl. Well, go halfway anyway, and then I pull up my tailstock for some support. I'm going to pull or cut the tenon away, starting with the bowl gouge. I'll cut the vast majority of the tenon away and then move on to a smaller spindle gouge to take and get rid of the rest of the tenon. Okay, here I switched over to my spindle gouge. Made sure the overall shape of the bottom is something I'm pleased with. Unfortunately, it got a little away from me there. There was minor damage to the bottom, a little scratch here and there. One on the edge of the bowl, and one, here we go, over on the side. First, sand out the remainder of the tenon. Get rid of those unsightly lines and such. I'm going to take the pointy part out of my live center and fix up the edge of the bowl. Just give it a quick little round over there. Apply the remainder of the finish on the lid. And of course, leave my mark. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I enjoyed making it. The final bowl came out with beautiful grain, lovely colors in there, and a nice accent from the black super glue I used to fill the gaps. And that little bit of bark, as you see, it stayed in there. Little bit of yellow. Very nice indeed. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.